So I think that's working for a lot of you, so I'm going to move on with the last part of the workshop. And in this last part, we're going to create a new activity, and we're going to use that activity to display the image. Now, the reason we might want to create a new activity is because, for instance, what we've done here is we've put an image on our main activity before we've actually got an image back. So what you might want to do is have your main activity with just a button and no image, such that you can then click that button, select an image, and then what will happen is we'll open up a new activity which does have an image, and we'll use that activity to display the image. So if that's not already clear, I've made a lovely little group of slides to sort of demonstrate this. So we'll have our main activity with just the button. We'll then, when we press the button, go to our gallery to select something. Our gallery will then return with an image, and then that's when we'll run this on activity result bit of code. We'll then at that point open up a new activity which we'll create ourselves, which will have an image to display. So I think, yeah. So that's what we're going to do. Now the way that we create a new activity for ourselves is by going up to this bit that says app. If you right click, go to new, you can scroll down to this thing that says activity, and then select empty activity. So is everyone able to do that? Is that clear? I'll do that once more just in case you didn't catch that. So I've gone to app, I've right clicked it, new, activity, and empty activity. And you might recognize these from the options that we got given at the start. Basically Android, if you would click these, would automatically create the same activities. But rather than creating a new project at the same time, it's only creating the activity this time. I'm going to call the name of this picture display activity, because this activity we're going to use to display the image. And then we get this. So now I'm going to switch back to our main activity bit of code. What you'll notice is that, oh no, I'm not. No, scrap that. Just going to have to zoom out here. So whereas before we had the Java code for our main activity, we had the display bit for our main activity, we now have the same thing but for our picture display activity. So here is an empty activity, and here is the code related to it. What we're going to do here is just go to images again and drag that image view into the center. I'm going to put that as the default. Now I know that the reason we created this activity was so that we wouldn't have to deal with the default, but actually we're going to change that image to one that we want it to as soon as we create it, rather than waiting for the user to select an image. Because when we do create it, the user will have already selected an image from the gallery, which is sort of according to the flow of this diagram. Again, I'm going to change this so that it will expand. I'm just going to leave that as image view 2. That's fine for the moment. Now going back here, we've deleted this image view so we can get rid of this bit of code, and also this bit here, and also that bit there, because we're no longer dealing with that image view. What we're now going to do, though, is on activity result, we're going to open up a new activity. And the way that we do this, again, is by using intents. So I am going to write intent is equal to new intent brackets this and picture display activity dot class. So the important bit of information here is this thing here. So remember I was sort of babbling on about addressing an envelope to Tom. This is the bit that says which activity we want to open, or in the sort of letter analogy, who we want to send the letter to. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a bit of information into that intent. So I'm going to put something into the envelope that I'm sending. And the way that I'm going to do this is by doing intent dot put extra. So I'm going to call this bit of information image. And the bit of information that I'm actually going to put in there is image URI dot toString. So it's this image URI that we had earlier, the image URI for the image that the user has selected, and I'm converting it to a string because it's easier to use in an intent. The last thing I'm going to do is just write start activity intent. The reason I'm not writing start activity for result, whereas that's what I did in this bit, is because I'm not actually expecting the user to come back to this screen once they've gone to this one here. Whereas here, I am expecting them to come back. So I'm not expecting a result. So the last thing I need to do is when I create the picture display activity, update the image in that activity so that it's set to the one that we've been given. So the first step is to make sure that we can actually use the image that we've put here. So as we did before, I'm going to write image view, Alt enter here to add the import statement, and then here image view equals brackets image view find view by ID r.id.image view. So I've called it image view 2 here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually find the intent that I've been given. So I'm going to do this by writing intent is equal to get intent. And I'm going to try and extract the data that I put in it earlier. And the way that I do that is by writing URI image URI is equal to URI dot pass intent dot get string extra image. Okay, so this is a fairly long line of code, but what we're doing here is we're looking in the intent and we're getting the string that we put in it earlier with the name image, and we're then turning it into a URI, and that's what this URI.parse thing is doing. The last thing I'm going to do is update the image in that activity in the same way that we did earlier. So I'm going to write image view dot set image URI image URI. I'm going to save that. I'm going to run it. So fingers crossed. Oops. Have I? Okay. So I forgot actually to take this out. That's fine for the moment. Gonna Boom. Amazing. It works. You can see that this is the new activity we've opened rather than the old one because it doesn't have the button at the bottom. What I've forgotten to do here is actually take this image out. That might make it clearer. think that's actually frozen. But so where's everyone at? I'm looking around these. Yeah, so I'm aware that people are sort of finishing off now. So the thing I'm going to finish off with is by saying thank you. I hope you've learned something, been inspired to do something more from this. If you do want to do more, then probably the best steps are to think of an app that you'd like to create, give it a go, see if you can create it, and when you get stuck, these are two very useful resources which you should definitely make use of. There is absolutely no shame in using other people's code from these websites. Everyone does it. There was a recent trend, actually, of people like senior developers from places like Google, Facebook, people who've been software engineers for years and years, just sort of going out on Twitter and saying, no, I still have to use Stack Overflow for pretty much everything that I do. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, thank you all for listening. Yeah, I hope you've learned something. Cheers.